something that really irks me is when people say, God can't speak to you if you don't know his voice. Because God can do anything. Hey, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Between the Walls podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Jess.
And I am Jonathan, and we are the Wallaceys.
Why'd you do that?
Wallaceys.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to another episode. How you doing?
I'm good. It's a good day.
It's cold.
Yeah, it's cold for us Floridians. And what many people might not know is that many Florida houses don't have heaters.
Yeah, so like when it's cold, there's
just
nothing
be
we
cold.
can really do. We just bundle
Put
up.
on more clothes.
Yeah, but my hearts and prayers and thoughts are with those who are experiencing snow. Not just like the people who always experience snow, but the people who normally don't are and they're like not prepared. Like some people in Atlanta or even Florida got snow.
Yeah, Florida got some
Like
snow.
I'm sure it's cool in the beginning, but then it's kind of like, okay, we don't know how to drive in this. I don't have heaters and things like that. So, you know, shout out to y'all. Hope y'all are staying warm because I'm cold. I have my Christmas socks on because they're nice and warm.
Okay, Christmas socks.
So Cha-Cha said I need to stop putting my toes in the camera. She's like, why you don't wear no socks? Your toes always in the camera. I'm like, Cha-Cha always got something to say. Love you, Cha-Cha. Anyways, what's been going on?
What's been going on?
Not much since our last podcast that we recorded 2 days ago.
But they didn't need to know that, though.
Oh, for sure.
Lots has been going
So much. Yo, goodness gracious, we're swamps. So swamped.
No, life is good. Can't complain. That's
So
it.
take a plane?
Can't complain.
Oh, can't complain.
By the time this is watched, we will have just came back from a cruise.
Yes.
So I'm excited about that.
I'm so excited about our cruise. We've never been on a... Oh, never mind. We have been on a cruise together, but not since we've been dating.
No.
We haven't.
I'm excited to be on a cruise together.
Yes, this will be... we deserve this do-over cruise experience.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I will say...
You trying to... He doesn't even not even want to talk about this.
No,
Go ahead.
No. I will say that since I got the tattoo recently, I won't even be able to really get in the water, which...
I know.
It's kind of annoying.
Yeah, but the thing is, you married a black girl, and I probably wouldn't be going in the water anyway. So I
But
think
you have braids.
squared away.
But you have braids, so you can go in the water.
But I don't get my braids. Oh, you guys, hope you guys like my braids. You know,
They're beautiful.
new little look. But I didn't get my braids to go to the water. I got my braids so I didn't have to do my hair on a vacation.
Yeah, but you can go in the water since you have your braids.
I can, but also like I feel like I would go in the water maybe like 4 weeks into my. Or like 2 or 3 weeks, but like I just got my hair done. I'm not about to go in the water and like start messing it up. It's
Does the water mess it up?
It can, maybe. It depends on how good of a quality your human hair is. If for those of you not watching, I have boho, like extra boho braids in, and like it's a lot of human hair, but I just don't know if the quality is good enough to withstand like chlorine, salt, water. So I'm gonna just stay on the sidelines. I might dip a toe or two, but if anything, the hot tub, jacuzzi, yeah,
Jacuzzi.
yeah. So. Jaquez.
Yeah, we almost bought a cat and named him Jaquez.
Jaquez. It's not Jaquez. It's Jaquez.
Why?
It's just like, first of all, I've never heard of Jaquez. I always pronounce it Jaquez.
Jaquez.
It's Jaquez.
Jaquez.
Anyways, babe, what's been your peak of the past 2 days?
My peak.
Peak of the week.
So after I broke my fast, I was able to eat my favorite dessert
What
in
did
the
you
world.
have?
A glazed blueberry donut
When did you
from
have
Dunkin'
that?
Donuts. Don't worry about when I had it.
No, because
know
that's
I-
insane.
just know I had it.
You had it today, didn't you?
No, it was 2 days ago.
That's insane because last night, you guys, I was eating a cheesecake that I had to freeze from my birthday because right after my birthday, we started fasting. We were like, no sweets, but I didn't get to it in time. Anyways, so it was in the freezer at my in-laws' house, and last night I was eating it, and I was like, "Do you want some?" You're like, "No, I'm not eating sweets right now." So when
No,
what
that's not what I said.
miss?
That's not what I said. You don't listen to me.
I don't. But what did I miss?
I don't like chocolate.
It wasn't chocolate. Nutella.
What is Nutella?
All right, so my peak of the week. My peak of the week. Actually, even though it's only been 2 days, sorry, I know, they already know since we recorded the last episode. I have a few peaks, but I will give one.
Give all the peaks.
I give one. Well, one peak. I got my hair done at this new braiding shop, and it only took 5 hours. When normally a style like this would take maybe 14.
You know what's crazy? As a man,
That sounds insane.
it only took 5 hours. I'm like, 5 hours?
I know. But remember my last braid appointment took, what, 11?
Yeah.
And the braids were much bigger and they were bob length.
Yeah.
So this is a huge win for me. It was great. And then last night I went to a brand event, which was really nice. And I never even really got to tell you because
No, you didn't.
we haven't really talked since last night. Not like a full conversation because we've been working. But last night I went to the brand event for Cantu. I brought my friend Lisa and I met some other creators or whatever. But two of the brand managers, they walked up to me and they're like, "We love your content and like we can't wait to work with you. I just sent your stuff over to my manager and like we're so excited to work with you soon." And I'm just like, "Wait, you know who I am?" To be honest, I don't know. Is this imposter syndrome or whatever? But it's like when people know who I am, I'm like, "You like my videos?" I'm like, "I like yours." Like another creator that I love, I love her videos or whatever. She walked in and I was telling my friend Lisa, I'm like, "Oh, that's her. Like there she goes." And then like she walked past me or whatever, and I was like, "Oh, she doesn't know me," which is fine because I'm like, she has liked a few of my comments before, not responded, but you know, when you put the heart next to it,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you know, you see me. But when I was walking out, she was like, "Oh my God, Jess," and I almost broke my neck. I was like, "Me?" She was like, "Oh my gosh, I wasn't sure. Like I thought I saw you inside, but since your hair is different, I wasn't sure if it was you, so I didn't want to say anything." But since like we're closer up, like I can see you. So hey, girl. Anyways, that was fun. But then the big one, my big peak of the week happened today.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Let's go.
I got a phone call from my manager and I got invited to another brand trip to one of my favorite places. I don't want to say in the world because I haven't been traveled enough. I'm sure I have more favorite places that I haven't seen yet.
It's your favorite. One of your favorites.
I love this state, this city. I'm so excited to go back there. I can't say anything yet, obviously, so I'm sorry for even bringing it up without giving you the whole story. I did say I was going to stop doing that, but it's been my peak of the week because when I got the phone call, I was so excited because as a lot of you know, like one of my goals was to like not go on brand, to be invited to brand trips. And I was so excited. Oh my gosh, I can't wait. I can't wait. And it's the perfect brand trip because it's only 2 days. And like, I don't need anything longer than that to me. Like 3 days tops. But if it's like 4 or 5 days, unless I can bring my husband, I'm so sorry, but I don't want to go. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. But I'll still take the invite. So if you're a brand and you're watching this, please call me. But yeah, I guess I've had a really eventful past couple of days.
That's great.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. I'm glad you've been
you.
having a great time. So, wife, what are we talking about today?
Okay, so I read some of the comments in the last video, only because I was looking for something. I don't normally read the comments, but whatever. But actually, a lot of you guys had a really good question because I mentioned in our last... Are you yawning?
No.
Did you have the coffee?
No, but I'm good.
Okay. Anyways, I mentioned in the last video how when I was... The first time I ever fasted... Well, not the first time ever, but the first time I was like really pressed in. I did 3 days no food. I was like, "God, I need to hear from you now." And that's when I was fasting over whether or not... Like, I just needed clarity if you and I we're gonna be together. And I mentioned that in the last podcast, and I was like, I heard from God, and He told me that we would. And you know, He told me years before Jonathan received that. But to be honest, I think it's just because I asked. Probably wouldn't have got it if I didn't ask. Well, at that time, because for me personally, there was no need for me to know years before you. It would have saved us a lot of issues. But anyways, a few of you guys were asking like, how did you hear? Like, how do you know that you heard? What does it feel like to hear from God or to know from God what to do or what the next move is and something like that? So I thought it would be nice if we talked a little bit about how to know like your calling or what it is to hear from God or how to hear from God. Like, what does God sound like? Things like that. I mean, it is going to be different for everyone. We could talk about our experiences and the things that we've learned over time. So yeah, that's what we're going to get into today. I think it's going to be a really good conversation because I really feel also that I've heard from God so many times. Like, and also because I feel like one of my gifts is discernment. So it's like, yeah, it's not even like I feel like I know for a fact that I have really good discernment, but I feel like it's also because God He just downloads things, you know?
She is a prophet.
Yeah, so take it away, babe.
Take it away. I guess I'll talk about my history of wanting to hear from God. Mm-hmm. I feel like for large portions of my life, I wanted to just not make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to always be like, all right, what's the will of God for this thing? What's the will of God for that thing? And I kind of felt like the will of God for my life was like a dot, like say like a dot on the floor. It's like you have to stand right here. And if you step anywhere outside of this being the will of God, then bad things are going to happen. And bad things are going to happen and it's all going to be like your fault because you stepped outside of the will of God. And now I kind of don't even believe in many cases that it works that way. Like, have you always felt like there is in like every situation a right and a wrong thing to do
Oh,
in terms of
no.
being in the will of God? So I guess that's a better way of explaining. I thought that I was paralyzed in a lot of decisions because I'm like, what's the right thing to do? What's the wrong thing to do? I got to make the right decision to stay on the track of the will of God
Right.
and not stray off of it.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's easy to bring up the example that you and I and like your dad and some people have talked about all the time. Like, oh, is there only one person in the world for me? Like,
Yeah.
did God say like there's only one person created for me? It's like I have to marry this person or I did everything wrong. There's no way that that is possible. Like there's only one person for you. Like God's will is for you to marry this one person because there's no way that everyone before us has gotten it right. The only way that that would work is if every single person has gotten it right and has left the right person for everyone else. And that is just obviously not the case. So if I believe that God told me that I was going to marry you, and obviously it worked out, but I do feel like if I would have married someone else, that I wouldn't have necessarily been outside the will of God. I think I'd be outside the will of God if I married someone who was unsaved or married someone who I clearly knew like God was telling me this is not the one for you. Like I don't have peace.
Yeah.
Even if he was saved, like I have no peace about this. Like this is completely wrong because there was options who like everything would be perfectly fine. Like this could be right, and we get married and things are fine. But I don't think that in every case it's either black or white. And if you chose white when it's supposed to be black, everything's ruined.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I think what I discovered about myself was my desire for what the will of God was for me to do was less about me wanting to be, do what God wanted rather than me wanting to live a mistake-free life.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it was like Magic 8 Ball. Should I go left or should I go right? Just to try to avoid any pain in my life. Because I guess kind of feeling like if I don't do what's right and things end up poorly for me, it'll be my fault because I wasn't looking for what God wanted. And I think that paralyzed me so much.
Yeah.
Because I don't even think that's how God works. And I think I used to feel like I didn't hear from God because when I would talk to him, it'd be asking to apologize for when I did wrong things or to ask about whether I should go left or right during decisions.
Yeah.
Rather than seeking him for just himself in the first place. And I think now when we think about the will of God, that God cares a lot more about the kind of people that we are versus the kind of what exactly we need to do. I think God can give you a playbook of, okay, at each turn, this is the choice to make, right? And you can make all the right choices without being the right kind of person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if you follow this, it's like you follow this playbook, life will go perfectly for you. Who wouldn't follow a playbook that would make life go perfectly for them?
Right.
But that doesn't make you a more mature person or a wiser person. Yeah, you can do all the right things, but if you're not the right kind of person, then you're no better off. Even if you look through all the verses that talk about this is the will of God for those that belong to Jesus, there are things like abstain from sexual morality. This is the will of God, for your sanctification. Therefore, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Rejoice always, pray without ceasing, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God. Right? So these are all things more so about the kind of person to be rather than the things to do. Because you can be a person who is being changed for good and does good will naturally make good decisions and decisions that reflect God's heart.
Yeah.
But if your heart is unchanged, you could still be making right decisions but have a rotten heart.
So I feel like what you're trying to say, or maybe what I'm getting from this is, or maybe just I want to say this because I feel like a lot of us are focused on like, God, tell me what to do, instead of like being the person I need to be for what I need to do anyways. I feel like sometimes we may not even get like the next step yet because we're not ready for it. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm asking God, I'm not hearing anything because maybe if he did tell you, you would jump into it, but you yourself aren't even ready for that. So like Jonathan's saying, if you could have all the playbooks and do all the things, but if you're not right and you're not ready, it's gonna turn out to not be good. Like we always say, right thing, wrong time is the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like what a lot of people want to know is like, how do you know you heard from God? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? Like, what do I do?
Yeah. I think what a lot of people believe spiritual maturity is, and what they believe what discernment is like at every step God telling you, go left, go right, go left, go right. That might be obedience, but that's not maturity. That's not discernment. What discernment is, for example, like if we talked about this the other day, if your parents picked out your clothes for you every single day, you know, when you're 2 or 3, that's fine.
Yeah.
But when you get to 7, 8, 9, 10, you need to learn how to put on your own clothes because, you know, you've been taught how to put on your
You
own
have the
clothes.
tools.
You now are able to think critically like, well, I shouldn't wear this shirt with these pants and I shouldn't with those shoes because you're now able to think about it. And I think it's the same way with God. You know, many times there's going to be times where he tells you or like he lets you know specifics of what to do. But many other times it's going to be like you're well within my will to wear the brown shirt or the blue dress. Like it doesn't matter to me which one you choose to do because that's your choice. I was reading this book and I think this book really changed how I thought about hearing from God. It's called Hearing God by Dallas Willard. But it really changed how I thought about hearing from God. And one of the things he said is that my children are well within my will, whether they're playing outside on the playground or they're playing video games inside the house or making a snack for themselves. I'm just happy that they're playing within the confines of the space, that I have for them. So I think many times when we think, should I take this job or that job? Should I pick this girl or that girl? Sometimes God might have a directive for you. It's like, I want you to do this thing and that'll be obedience. But other times he's like, pick the one you want. And he's like, I've given you the maturity and I've worked in you enough wisdom to be able to make a decision. And I think sometimes we're more so scared than anything else.
Yeah. But you know what? At the same time, it's like there are times that, say with a job, it's like maybe this is the job that God wanted me to take because there's like my purpose or my plan is in here, whatever it is. So how do you know when it's the whole, whatever it is within my will, pick whatever you want, or this is what God is calling me to do? How can you tell the difference?
I think one of the big things is peace with that. When making a decision, how much peace you feel. And even if he doesn't give you a directive, seeking him about the decision, especially when the decisions that have time, that are time-based, right? If there's a time-based decision and you feel peace about that decision, it's like, God, I'm going to make this decision. This is how I feel personally. Yeah. God, I'm going to make this decision. Right now, I don't feel anything that's drawing me against it. I don't see anything in your word against making this decision. If you don't want me to do this thing, let me know. And then making the decision with confidence and boldness. Yeah. Okay. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? But I think a lot of it is because hearing from God is only one aspect of a relationship with him. And I think you're going to have a tough time hearing God if you only ever go to him to hear him tell you what to do. Right. Because at that point, you don't know how to discern his voice. Yeah, yeah. It's, like he talks about it in, I think it's John, my sheep hear my voice. Like they know my voice.
Right.
And if you don't know his voice, then how are you going to hear him?
Yeah, like they always give the example, if we're in a room full of people and my husband calls out my name, I was like, I know my husband's calling me because I spend time with him and we talk all the time. And like, I know what it
The way he
feels
talks.
like to sound, to hear his voice. Even when like people play those like baby shower games, they'll put like a blindfold over the baby mama or baby daddy's eyes or husband or wife, whatever's eyes. And then all the girls or guys will have to walk and they'll have to feel their hand and you have to feel which one is your wife's. And I've seen a lot of successful videos. We're not playing that one. We're not playing that. But they have to feel, and I've seen a lot of them get it right. They're like, I know this hand. This is my wife's hand because they hold their wife's hand every single day, and they know that person.
Yeah.
But like you said, if you're only coming to God when it's time to make big decisions, and how often do we make big decisions? I mean, twice or 3 times a year. You know what I mean? If that's the only time you're pressing into God, how are you going to hear him if you don't know what he sounds like on a regular basis? Like someone that I spoke to 6 months ago, if they call my name out in a group, I am going to have no idea who's calling me because I don't know them and I don't talk to them every day. So it's really about spending the time. But I don't want to get it wrong because something that really irks me is when people say, God can't speak to you if you don't know his voice, because God can do anything. So it's not to say like if you don't spend time with him, it's impossible for you to ever hear him because he can't have you know exactly audibly that it's him. That's not true, but you have to do your part too because he is speaking, but it's on you. You're the one who can't. You can't hear, you can't see because you don't know.
Yeah.
So
and you're gonna probably have a harder time hearing rather than him not saying anything.
Yeah.
I also think that many of us, like me, many times included, live our lives at too fast a pace to hear from God. You know, that God many times speaks in a still small voice.
Yeah.
Usually when he speaks to people in big proclamations or like through dreams or through visions or through audible voices, many times when he speaks to people that way is when he really needs to get their attention.
Yeah.
Usually in, the case when he's speaking to people that he knows well, he speaks in more hushed tones, right? Where you have to really seek his face.
Yeah.
In a quieter time. But in American Christianity, or just America in general, there's just so many things vying for your attention. There's so many things vying for your time. Our attention spans are kind of nuked. So the time that it takes to really sit and seek God, many people just don't take. So they're like, they're living life as regular, and let God speak to me, and they continue to live life as regular, in which he can speak to you. It's just going to be a lot harder for you to hear him.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the time we can miss it. I feel like God will say something and we can miss it. And also, this just happened to me, and if I wasn't paying attention, I would have missed it because, like I said, we were fasting last week, and I was kind of just asking God for clarity about, our pregnancy or, things with my family and stuff. And what I was also asking is, what I understand, I'm not going to get this baby or get pregnant or whatever until I'm ready. I'm like, what am I missing? What am I lacking? Yeah, what to you is not ready? Let me tell you, I was having a serious conversation with him because I'm like, hey, man, marriage is good. We got a house. Our finances are straight. Head on my shoulders. I'm 33. I'm like, what am I missing?
Yeah, he said, I ain't even looking at all that.
Yeah,
honestly.
He's like, yeah, all that. That's nice. But he's like, first of all of that can be taken away in a second. So, Savannah, slow down. But it was literally just like, you're giving up too easy. Keep pressing in because you want the short race. You think just because you got the house, you got the husband, you got the job. It's like, okay, the next thing is the baby. You're like, but I don't work that way, Yeah. And I feel like you think just because you're right on track that you deserve this right now. And it's not that I feel like I'm undeserving, but you need me because you're going to need me much more when that baby comes, but you don't have, you're not full of me right now. And so when you have this baby, you're going to be empty because you're going to have nothing to give. So it was like, yeah, I know you want the answers. It was, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I've heard that from him too.
He gave me the same exact answer. You came for answers, but I'm giving you me.
Yeah.
So you need to
if you needed the answer right now, I would give it to you.
Right. So he said, slow down. Just keep pressing into me. I kept getting the Galatians 6:9, and why can't I quote it properly? I kept hearing Galatians 6:9, it'll come in due season if you don't give up. It's not your season, but keep going. It's so easy for me to be like, I'm done. This isn't working. This prayer thing's not working. Like, you're not listening to me. You're listening to everybody else. Like, I don't care.
Yeah, because when you really have when you start to have a good relationship with God, you might be asking about something specific, but even though he's talking, he might not be giving you the specific answer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like when I was talking to God about Jess, very similarly, we've talked about this a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, is it Jess or is it not? It's like, yeah, you want to know that, don't you?
Wouldn't you like to know?
He's like, I just need you to calm down for a second, and I need you to. It's like I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
If you realize who it is that you're talking to, with the woman at the well in John 4, Jesus says, if you knew who it was that you were talking to, you'd be asking me for living water. And the same times I feel like when we're looking for God's hand, for him to give something to us, we miss out on his face.
Okay.
Do you get what I'm saying? And we're supposed to come to God when we want something.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for him, it's better for him to not give us what we want if we don't yet have him.
Yeah.
Because then we're missing out on what we really need.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I think in your situation and in mine, well, your situation is still our situation, but he's like, hey, like, it's great. That thing, we can talk about that later, but don't miss out on the gift giver. That's me.
Yeah.
Like, even when, the mindset being, it's like, but look at all these things that, like, I have in place already. Mm-hmm. Look at all these ways I'm prepared. Like, even to him, it's like, in Psalms it says, every good gift that I have comes from you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, all of that is from me anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have anything at all but from me. Yeah. So I think for him, it's like reordering our perspective. Mm-hmm. But I think many people can be so keyed on looking for the answer that they might even miss that from God.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that's him speaking, but it's him speaking and not telling us
the yes or no.
The yes or no, or what's going to happen, or what to do. Mm-hmm. They say, like, take me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like a lot of people can miss, and I'm not talking about anyone in particular, and this has been me as well. It's like, okay, God, if this person isn't for me, like, take them out of my life, and then, like, something will happen, but it's not an exact taking out of their life, and they're like, oh, I'm not sure, was that you? Like, I'm not sure. Like, when there's just so much limbo, I feel like either that can be it right there, because I feel like sometimes God will give us the tools to make the decision instead of just making the black and white decision. It's kind of what we talked about earlier. Your parents teach you how to dress. Eventually, they'll trust you to dress yourself because they gave you what you needed.
Yeah. When you said that he'll give you the tools, and a lot of times those tools could be in scripture, right? So if you're talking about a man or you're talking about a woman, right, that is this person for me? Do they love me? I know that they say that they love me, but I don't know if it's right. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love doesn't envy. It doesn't boast. So you have blueprints for what love is that you can refer to, which is God's speaking. Yeah. You have people around you that you can ask, especially if it's godly counsel, that is like, we are the hands and feet of Jesus, so that we can people can help direct you in the right way. But it's like, but God's voice isn't audibly calling, but he can be speaking to you through other avenues as well. All of these are ways of hearing God.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, no, it's fine. Like, for me, because I know people are still kind of just like, well, what does it sound like? What do you hear? What do you hear? So, like, when I said, I was praying for answers and God told me instead, like, you need to slow down. Like, this is where I'm at right now and you're 10 steps ahead. How did I hear that? What did it sound like? How did I know that that's what I got from that? There are times where literally God will deposit, and this isn't how everyone hears. I'm going to tell you the few different ways that I've heard. He'll deposit something in my mind, and I'll hear it, and I know that I didn't come up with that because I don't want that answer. I don't want that at all. Like, if you really think that I'm delusional and I came up with, God said, I need more of him and I'm stepping ahead, I don't want that. If I wanted to make up an answer in my head, I would have said, yes, their baby's coming tomorrow. Like, that's the answer I would have made up. But it's literally, they always say, like, the still small voice. And that is a lot of the times how I feel like God speaks to me. But especially when, you're talking about how we can be so distracted. When I'm in my times of, like, quietness and sitting in prayer, like during fasting, I didn't do it every morning, but there's a couple mornings I woke up at 6 and I would finish at 8. And it's just 2 hours of just silence and prayer and just sitting. A lot of the time I spend, me or whoever watching will do a quick like 5-minute devotional before work. It's like, at least it's something like, God, I'm giving you the time that I have. It's like, here's a 5 minutes. And then you go off to work and you do all the things. You come home, you cook, you help the kids with homework, and you just brush your teeth to go to bed, or you watch an episode. When did you have time to listen? Not that he didn't speak. Because I'm never going to say, oh, God can't talk to you during those times. Not that he didn't speak, but when did you take the time to sit
To
and
listen.
listen, you know? Because I do believe God is always speaking, but are we always listening? Or are we in an environment to hear? Like with my husband, he could be speaking to me sitting right here, but if the music is all the way up, I'm not going to hear him. Like low key, I was I was at a brand event last night, and I was standing right next to one of the girls I was talking to. The music was so loud. I was hearing maybe every other word, but I still was like, yeah. It's so loud. So not that she's not speaking, but there's too much distractions around that I could barely hear her or not hear her at all. So you need to also, like, if you're coming to God, like, God, I need answers. I need answers. How do you talk to someone? How do you have like a meaningful conversation with someone? You make time and you sit, you talk, and when you're done talking, you pause so that they can speak. I'm not gonna ask you a question and then go scroll on TikTok and listen to music and watch TV and be like, you didn't say anything. I didn't give you a chance.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is lowering the noise level, like you said.
All right, the way I'm sitting is so unladylike. I'm so sorry. I didn't pee. Like, what is that? Okay. What was that?
I don't know. You're sitting like me. Yeah, but lowering the noise level, because there are certain activities that I think are noisier than other activities.
Yeah.
I think there's nothing more noisy for your inability to hear God than doom scrolling. Because it's just an assault on like your dopamine receptors, and just in terms of that, it's just new content, new information every time. Whereas reading, even if it's not about Jesus, it's a singular thing in which your brain has to focus, in which things can be revealed to you.
Yeah.
Like something that would get me, that would probably bar me from hearing God at certain points in my life, is that when I'm cooking, but I'm also listening to a podcast, and there also might be something going on in the background.
Yeah.
Where it's my brain is going on too many fronts, so that I couldn't even hear God if I wanted to. Could God come like a flash of lightning if he really needed to tell me something?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if I'm looking and I'm seeking for him, I need to turn that noise level down. For me, when I finally started hearing God in that season of my life, when I was seeking him about Jess, it was when I started practicing the spiritual disciplines of silence and solitude.
Yeah. I like that you said practicing, because it takes practice.
Yeah, it takes practice. There's this book that's like very popular in Christian circles called "Practice the Presence of God," right? Practice the presence.
Yeah.
I saw it all over. Practice the presence.
I tried.
Yeah, practice the presence of God, in which it takes conscious effort to literally bring God to your imagination constantly throughout the day. So even though you have your set aside time for him, that's not the only time you can access God. You could be in the presence of God literally as you go throughout your day at every moment, but you have to put into practice some of these spiritual disciplines, in order to attune your ears to hear him more clearly.
Yeah.
In all the ways that he might be speaking, rather than in just the ways that we want.
Well, let me ask you a question, because I know like a lot of people like to say, oh, I had a dream last night that blah, blah, blah. And I know we like to base it off of like Joseph, because he had all the dreams where God was just showing him all the visions and the dreams. But I feel like we have to be careful. Like, I had a dream last night about so-and-so. Let me tell you something. I had the weirdest dream last night, and I was telling Jonathan about it. But do I think that means I need to do what happened in the dream? Absolutely not. I don't know where that dream came from, but I really feel, and I'm bringing this up, I don't even know, maybe I don't have a question for you, but I really feel like we have to be careful with trying to get our answers in dreams, because a lot of our dreams, especially if you have like a dream catcher thing, throw that away right now, first of all. Like, I 100% believe like those dream catcher things are just, I feel like it goes into a different type of realm that I can't even really get into because I haven't done enough research, but throw that away right now. But a lot of things can alter our dreams. So I feel
Yeah.
like if you're not in a place of really pressing into God and like doing your prayer and your fasting, because we a lot of garbage that we fill ourselves, we'll think about it and subconsciously in our dreams. But I will say that was one of the instances that made me know that God was telling me that you are going to be my husband. And I know since a lot of people ask me, I don't want to beat a dead horse and talk about this every podcast, but a lot of people did ask me, and I've never really said it all in one sitting. And since we're talking about this, I will explain a few of them. Is that okay with
Yeah,
you?
no, I mean, yeah, go off.
Beautiful. Okay. So let's rewind back to like 7 years ago when I was doing a 3-day fast and I was just praying and praying and praying. I'm like, God, what's the deal? And also, well, I'll say this later. And what's the deal? Is it going to be Jonathan? And I can't even tell you why I needed to know so bad at that time, but I can tell you why I feel like God answered me at that time, but I'll tell you in a second. So there were like, I think 2 or 3 instances, but the 2 that I remember right now is one, I had a dream literally that Jonathan asked me to be his girlfriend. And I know it can seem like, oh, it's because he wanted it so bad. But I was like, I woke up from that dream and I prayed about it and I felt a peace. But I was like, that's not enough, God. Like maybe I made that up in my head, but I would just continue to pray and pray and pray. And then I heard a voice again. And I told you this story before, but I was in the grocery store. I remember praying about it in the car on the way to the grocery store because I was also fasting from music. And so I was spending a lot of time in the car because I actually had a 9 to 5 at the time. And it was like 30 minutes away, a lot of time in the car. And I would just pray. I'm like, God, I need to know. And at that time when I was fasting, I had no other prayer requests. I wasn't taking prayer requests from my friends. I'm like, this is it. This is all I need to know, God. And I remember going to the grocery store. When I got out the car, I just finished praying. I'm in the ice cream aisle and I hear God tell me this. I'm telling you, it was not me because it actually happened again. And he said, you and Jonathan are going to be together, but he's going to date somebody else first. And I heard it so clear that my eyes filled up with water because I was so sad that he was going to be with somebody else first. And let me tell you, I didn't want that. Like, it wasn't like, oh, maybe I'm just thinking that. Maybe I heard that on my own. Like, no. I knew it was going to happen. And the exact thing happened. And when it happened, I forgot that I heard that because I was so up in arms when it did happen. But I just think it really was because I quieted all of the other noise at the time. Like, there was no TikTok or I don't even think I was really on Instagram at the time. So I didn't really have much else to distract me besides music and food and whatever. So I took the 2 things that were distracting me the most or that I spent most of my time doing away, and God started speaking. And I also wanted to say, this is kind of off topic, but I think the reason why God told me so much earlier than he told you is because I 100% would have ended up with somebody else if I didn't know that you were going to be my husband. I don't think you needed to know as soon as I did.
That's interesting.
I feel like you were moving a little bit slower. You weren't taking things as serious with like the girls you were dating and stuff. But I can absolutely tell you, I would have 100% married somebody else if I didn't know in my heart of hearts that God told me it was going to be you.
That's interesting. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, because for those of you who don't know, I'm 5 years older than Jonathan, and we didn't even we lived like 2 hours away from each other at the time, and so we lived completely different lives. So, and I was dating other people at the time, even though I knew that we were going to be together, but sometimes it just didn't seem like it was happening. Somebody else was checking for me. I was like, okay, sure. But that actually just came to me while we were talking about this. That's why I wanted to bring it up. But I absolutely think that's why he told me so much earlier, because I would have been somewhere else. I would have been gone.
Yeah, that's good. I think also one thing to know is that, and when you talk about dreams and you talk about more like different sources from which you might hear from God, and a good blueprint from that is the ways that He's spoken in Scripture, but none of them should take precedence over the written word of God.
Yeah.
That God can't contradict Himself, right? So He's not going to tell you to lie about anything. He's not going to tell you to cheat on anybody. He's not things like that go against His word. You can know for sure that that's not the voice of God. That's another voice you might be hearing. Another way that you can know something's not the voice of God is that it's never going to sound urgent. It's never going to sound like you have to do this right? It doesn't sound rushed or hurried.
Calm.
It's calm. Like if you ever hear a voice that it's like it feels frantic, that's not God's voice. That's not God's voice.
It
might be you. It might be This battle isn't against flesh and blood, but against principalities, you know, and unseen realms.
Yeah.
So, like, it might be spiritual, but it might
Yeah.
not be of God.
Yeah, that's like when the serpent went to Eve and like, eat it. Come on, go, eat it.
Yeah.
Like, go eat the fruit. Yeah, no, you'll be fine. Just go ahead, eat it. Eat it now. Eat it. It's like, whoa.
So yeah, so the biggest incident, like way you can know, you can measure it with what God has said in the written recorded scripture.
Yeah.
So we always have that basis to bounce things off of as well. One thing that I kind of wanted to talk about as well was, I think many people think that discernment is always going to be, because when we pray for discernment, right, we are praying. I thought that was God, tell me what to do. We talked about that a little bit earlier. But when we pray for discernment, it's God helping us and giving us the ability to discern between good and better sometimes. Like, it's not between good and bad, which is going to be very easy. Like, I can know that I shouldn't, like, cheat on this test, you know, because it's wrong.
Right.
But it's sometimes when should I choose between this job?
Sorry, it's my turn.
Yeah, it's your turn. Should I choose between this job and that job? Like, how do I know which one I should pick?
Yeah.
And we can get really flustered with that, but we can make decisions without having that level of fear that, oh, if I choose wrong, then things are going to go poorly for me.
Yeah.
Because we know that God is, I say this all the time, God is a good God that loves to give good gifts to his children. Us having good things wasn't dependent on our good decision making anyways. It was only dependent on God's goodness.
Yeah.
So you can make decisions with peace, especially after you sought after God because you now know that, like, I'm going to make this decision and I know that God has it and God has me. And you don't have to be afraid. I think so many people are, you know, afraid of, like, their decisions not coming out good. So it's like, God, please just tell me what to do. So like my life is pain free.
Do the exact thing.
Yeah. Or my life is pain free, or that my life is without trouble or without trauma. But is not necessarily how it's going to work, but we know that God is good. I think many people think that a sign that they're doing what God wants for them, or isn't doing what God wants for them, is if something turns out successfully. Right?
Yeah, that's not the case.
It's like, oh, God will only tell me to do something
if it was going to work out.
If it was going to work out perfectly. But then you end up doing something and it's like, oh, I guess God wasn't in it.
Right. It's like, dang, he told me to start a YouTube channel, but for the past 4 years, I've been consistent every day, and I keep getting 400 views.
Yeah,
it's not successful. Maybe this isn't what God wanted me to do.
Or this was a great person, and God gave me the peace about dating them, but it didn't turn out great, and we broke up. Dang, I guess I heard God wrong.
Right.
There is a chance in a situation that you might hear God wrong, but that's not with the fallibility of God. That's the fallibility of our ears sometimes.
You said fallibility?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you know what that means? It's not the fault.
Oh.
It's not the fault of God.
Dang,
it's the
that's
fault.
not where I was going with that. Okay, good.
Like fallible. Like, it's not.
Sure.
It's our ears' fault rather than it's God's fault.
Okay.
Like, we didn't understand what he said. But just because it's not successful doesn't mean that it's not God. There are many times in Scripture where God told his people to go do a thing and it didn't work out. The prophet Jeremiah, he preached for years and years and years and years and years, and nobody turned around. But God said, you have to keep preaching.
It's like, well, this isn't working, though.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, but I didn't ask you that. I told you to do it.
Right. Sometimes it's just really about your obedience.
Yeah, it's like, but I told you to do it.
Yeah, I want to see if you'll be obedient for this. And don't worry about
that's
the next
it.
step.
Yeah, like, that's it. That's
or maybe
all,
that was just it. Like
that was it.
That was the test. Yeah, you're never going to get more than 400 views. I just wanted to see if you were going to listen to me and do what I told you to do.
Because you might learn something.
And that's the success.
You might learn something from it.
Right. Or those 400 people all just got saved. And you're like, only 400 people watch. Maybe all 400 of them got saved. And that might be more people that I ever turned to Jesus with my, like, whatever views.
Or he might not ever tell you why.
I've had a few of those moments. I'm like, I don't really get why. Like, oh my gosh. Can I tell the story again for the millionth time?
Which one?
My American Idol story.
I don't think you've ever actually told it.
I have on my vlog, but since this is a different channel, you guys, I don't know still why God gave me this this is one time that I was like, I feel like I heard from God and I got the sign and I still don't understand why we did this. So when I turned 18, I was like, I really wanted to go to American Idol. I love to sing. Like, singing is so much fun, blah, blah, all that stuff. And I'm like, God, if I should go, make it clear. So I looked at the flights or whatever, and I'm like, this is back in the day when a flight was really not that expensive, because that was when I was 18. That was a long time ago. Oh, 18 years ago? No,
Not yet.
15, whatever. Long time ago. And a flight for myself and my dad was going to be like $400 because I want to take my dad with me. He's like the best supporter. He went on all of my singing auditions with me. Shout out to my dad. So I looked at the flight, $400. I'm like, oof, that's a toughie. But I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll figure it out. So literally, I don't know what day it was that I prayed that prayer, but the following Sunday, I go to church and this older lady, I sang at church because I used to sing. Well, I sing at church. I sang on Sunday. I get off stage, and when church is over, this older lady, gives me an envelope, and she said, God told me to give this to you. I'm like, okay. I open the envelope. It's a check for $500. I'm like, no way. Bro, when I tell you, I was like, I'm going to win American Idol. Because this is the clearest answer I could ever get. I'm like, no way. My little 18-year-old brain, I even posted on Facebook, like, hey, guys, go to American Idol. What song should I sing? I would never do that today. If I was going to do something big like that, I would never say anything until I make it. Like, I was so sure. Anyways, I'm like, Dad, I tell my dad, whatever, we pray and all this good stuff. And long story short, I go to the audition. I barely get 3 words out before they raise their hand and they say thank you and send me on my way with no gold card. I'll never forget the look on my dad's face when I went outside to meet him. He was like ready to be like, yes. And he was just like, oh, come here, baby. It's like his face went from lit up to, oh, okay, I'm concerned now. Like, let me hug her. But to this day, I'm like, why did you make me go? I don't know. Why did you send that lady to give me money?
Built character, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. That I don't know. And do I think that I heard God wrong? No, because maybe I'll figure it out. Or maybe I won't. I don't know.
Yeah, but it's like, I trust you.
Yeah, it's like, all right, cool. Now I have a fun story to tell. But that is just an example of sometimes you just won't know.
Yeah.
What do you think about the difference of how to tell if something is a coincidence or is this a coincidence or is this God? How do I know?
Ask him.
A lot of being in communication with God. Really, though, because if you want God to talk to you, you have to talk. You don't have to because God can do anything, but it would be in your best interest. That's how people respond. You have to speak to them first.
Yeah, ask him.
In order to get a response.
Ask him. One of the things you could seek godly counsel, or pray prayers like, God, confirms to me through whatever means that you want to, if this is something for me to do. Yeah. Or not.
All right, y'all. We got to finish quick because our camera keeps shutting off on us. It keeps overheating. The battery's dying and all these things. But I wanted to say a couple of things really quick. Okay, and the last thing that I have when I prayed for an answer for something, what God gave to me, and I feel like we can talk about relationships all day because I feel like those ones can be easier, especially when you have a guy with a red flag. He's not patient. He's not kind. It's like, okay, this guy may not be for you, at least not right now, or whatever it is. But a lot of people might be like, okay, how do I tell about a job? There's not necessarily jobs. Your job is patient, job is kind. I don't know how to tell in the word, even though I'm sure there are things. And sometimes it really may just be like we were talking about in the beginning, free will. Like both of these jobs would be great for you. Pick the one you want. Yeah. But I remember when I wanted to I was pressing into God and I was like, should I pursue YouTube full time? Should I quit my job is what I wanted to know. At this time, I think I had 80,000 followers on YouTube, which is a lot back then, but I was only making $300 a month off of YouTube. And I had a full-time job, which was taking care of everything else. Shout out to my parents who let me live at home for free at the time, or else I could have never done this. But I was praying, oh my God, should I quit? Is it time to quit? Should I press into this full-time? Because it was becoming a time where I couldn't handle both at the same time. So one thing I also did, which what you mentioned, I sought wise counsel. At the time, we weren't dating, but his dad was our pastor. So I reached out to his dad. I'm like, hey, this is what YouTube's doing for me right now. I feel like if I press in, I could really make a career out of this. But I also have this full-time job, which could also be a career. And I asked him to pray for me and make sure you have godly people around you because he didn't answer me right away. He actually said, give me 3 days. I want to pray about it for 3 days and see what God says. And it was either on the second or third day for him that this happened. It might have been the third day because I remember it orchestrating very well. But I remember I go to work, and this is after I prayed about it a couple of days ago. Like, God, show me what to do. And if I am supposed to quit, please help me because I'm so bad at doing these things. So I go to work, and I don't even know if I clocked in yet. And they called me into their office, like while I'm walking in, like, hey, Jess, we want to talk to you. So I go in, and they're like, yeah, do you want to work here? I'm like, in my head, I'm like, no. But I didn't say that. But like, we just really feel like your heart's not in this job. We feel like, your mind, it seems like lately your mind has been somewhere else. We would love for you to stay, but if this isn't where you want to be, like, please let us know and we'll just, we'll work it out. We can do 2 more weeks here and then you can leave. They said, let us know by the end of the day. And I was like, okay, thank you. Like, thank you for pulling me aside to talk. I really appreciate that. And all day, I was like, dang, I should have just took the opportunity earlier because I don't know how to go back and be like, actually, yeah, I want to leave. But I was like, I went back to my seat and I'm like, this is it. Like, God is giving me my out because he knew I couldn't do it on my own, bro. I needed help. I'm so bad with things like that. My anxiety goes crazy and I wouldn't have been able to do it on my own. But the type of person I was back in the day, I never really quit jobs well. For the most part, I would just stop showing up. But I didn't want to do that because I enjoyed it.
Terrible.
It was really bad. But I really liked this place and I didn't want to do that to them. So by the end of the day, I was like, you know what? You guys are right. I really just want to pursue something else right now. And that was that. And then I remember telling your dad what happened. And he was like, well, that's great because I was going to tell you, like after praying, that I think you should pursue this. So along with God giving me the out, I also had confirmation on top of it from somebody who is wise counsel and is of the same faith. And I know that they're pressed into God and can hear from God also.
Yes.
So that is just some of the ways that I have heard from God in my personal experiences. I've heard audibly. I've seen through dreams, through wise counsel, and just for God simply just working it out so black and white that I couldn't be anybody other than God.
Yeah, that's really good. I think, from like everything that we said, I feel like we gave a pretty good framework around, hearing from God, what it means to know God's will and all that good stuff. I'd say that just the biggest takeaway that you can have is just create that space and that time to be able to hear from him.
Yeah.
And seek his face, not just for when you want something or when you need something, but for him. Nothing that he gives you or nothing that you want is going to give you happiness or satisfaction more than him himself. Mm-hmm. So, that's all. Yeah. That's all.
Yeah, I think that's good. Don't be afraid to ask people to pray for you. Like, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you pray for me and see if you can get some confirmation for me as well? But make sure you're doing your part as well. Like, you can't always lean on other people. Like, I need you to pray for me, and then you're not doing anything for yourself to hear from God as well. So I really just feel like if you really are pressed for an answer, just press into God and listen. Stop asking for answers and not stopping to listen for them as well. Yeah, that's it.
That's all.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching another episode. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video with a friend if you need to. Also, we're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify every Tuesday, so we can see you guys over there as well on your drives to work. Or if you want to listen to nothing on the way to work and pray, that's also a great option. But if you're not fasting, if you're not praying, go ahead and turn us on in the car. It's good stuff. We love you guys so much, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye.
Bye.